The entire NBA world has been turned upside down after a shocking new leak coming out of San Francisco. Stephen Curry, the heartbeat of the Golden State Warriors, the engine behind everything this team does, has reportedly received MRI results that could completely reshape the Warriors' entire season. And tonight we're diving into every detail, every insider whisper, every reaction inside the locker room, and exactly what this means for Curry, for the franchise, and for the future of this team. This is not the kind of update Warriors fans expected, especially not now, with the season hanging in the balance and the pressure already reaching its peak. But if the information coming out is true, then everything, absolutely everything, is about to change. Right now, emotions inside the Warriors organization are all over the place. Players were described as quiet and tense. Coaches reportedly stopped practice for over 20 minutes. And several veterans were seen having private conversations behind closed doors because the moment the MRI information leaked, everyone realized that the Warriors may be facing a turning point they were never prepared for. To understand how massive this moment is, you need to know the full picture of what has been happening with Steph over the last 72 hours. It all began with what looked like a simple play, one that Curry has made thousands of times. A quick drive to the rim, a slight bump from a defender, nothing out of the ordinary. He finished the possession, jogged back on defense, and even hit a three on the next trip down. But behind the scenes something was wrong. Trainers immediately noticed Steph moving differently. He was putting pressure on one side, favoring the leg, and trying to shake off stiffness that wouldn't go away. After the game, when reporters asked Steph if he felt okay, he gave a quick smile, the kind where he tries to downplay everything, and said he was fine. But the truth was completely different. By midnight, he was already being evaluated. By morning, the Warriors' medical team had scheduled an MRI. And by afternoon, the results were quietly shared with team officials until someone leaked the details, sending shockwaves through the NBA. What's even wilder is what happened inside the Warriors' facility. As soon as the staff began briefing the players on the situation, the mood reportedly changed instantly. Draymond Green, who always tries to stay composed, was said to be pacing. Klay Thompson was visibly frustrated, slamming his water bottle after hearing the update. Even newcomers on the team were stunned, realizing that their entire role, their entire season, their expectations could all shift dramatically depending on what happens next. And that brings us to the real question: what exactly did the MRI reveal? Sources say the issue is not catastrophic, but it is serious enough to spark internal panic. The biggest concern is that this is not just a day-to-day recovery issue. It may impact his stability, mobility, and ability to hold up through the rest of the season. And for a team that relies on Curry for literally everything on offense, that is a massive, massive problem. It's no secret that the Warriors live and die by Steph's presence. When he's on the court, they play with rhythm, confidence, spacing, and flow. When he's off the court, everything slows down, everything gets harder, and the pressure on every other player skyrockets. And this season more than ever, the Warriors cannot afford any major setbacks. Their record is tight. The Western Conference is stacked. Every loss matters. Every injury matters. And losing Steph or even having him limited could derail everything. But the real twist in all of this is what the coaches reportedly discussed right after the MRI leak. Some insiders claim the coaching staff is already planning a completely different offensive approach depending on Curry's availability. They may be forced to rely more heavily on Jonathan Kuminga, who has been pushing for a bigger role all season. They may need Klay Thompson to step into a more aggressive scoring mindset, something he hasn't consistently done since his injuries. They may even have to lean into young players like Brandon Podziemski and Moses Moody in ways they hadn't expected. And for a team that has struggled with identity all year long, suddenly having to rebuild an entire game plan without their superstar is the last thing anyone wanted. Now, let's talk about Steph himself, because this is where the story gets even more emotional. Curry is known for his insane level of fitness, recovery routines, and durability, even at his age. He hates missing games. He hates letting down his teammates and fans. And whenever he's hurt, He goes into what insiders call full obsession mode, where he studies film, adjusts his workouts, and pushes himself harder than anyone else. Reports say he was frustrated when the MRI showed something more serious than expected. He had hoped the issue would disappear after a night of rest. Instead, he's now facing a situation that he may not be able to simply tough out, no matter how competitive he is. And that's the scary part, because when Steph Curry feels limited, the entire Warriors system becomes vulnerable. But let's not ignore the reaction from front office officials. Several NBA insiders claim Warriors management is now re-evaluating their entire trade deadline strategy because of this leak. They had been exploring moves already, but mostly around strengthening the bench, adding defense, and bringing in a reliable scorer. Now, the urgency has gone up tenfold. They may need someone who can legitimately carry the offense if Curry needs time off. Rumors say names like Zach LaVine, DeJounte Murray, and even Pascal Siakam have popped up again internally. But everything depends on the final medical timeline, which the Warriors have not released publicly. And that's another wild twist: the organization is not announcing anything yet. They're staying quiet. Some say they're waiting until they have a clear long-term plan. Others say they want to protect Steph from media chaos. But the silence is only making fans more nervous, especially after insiders confirmed that the MRI leak was real. And speaking of fan reaction, social media exploded as soon as the update dropped. Warriors fans began panicking, NBA fans began speculating, and analysts started predicting major shifts in playoff seeding. Even rival players apparently reached out privately to check on Steph's condition. He's that important not just to the Warriors, but to the entire league. And here's something even more surprising. Several people around the league expressed frustration that the MRI information was leaked in the first place. They argued that Steph, a player who has given everything to the game, deserved privacy. But unfortunately, in today's NBA world, nothing stays hidden for long. And this story has another layer, because the Warriors coaching staff is extremely worried about minutes. Steph has been carrying a heavy load. He's been forced to take on more responsibility because Klay hasn't been consistent, Wiggins has struggled, and the bench is still figuring things out. And the coaching staff fears that the workload might finally be catching up to him. And that puts the Warriors in a very delicate position. If they push Steph too hard right now, they could risk long-term damage. But if they hold him back, the team might fall too far behind in the standings to recover. It's a no-win situation. And that's why the internal mood is so tense. But this story gets even deeper when you look at the psychology of the locker room. Draymond reportedly gave an emotional speech, urging the team to step up, stop relying on Steph for everything, and take personal responsibility. He reminded them that this team once had a culture of toughness, unity, and next man up mentality, and that they need to rediscover it right now. Klay, meanwhile, has been wrestling with his own battles, the pressure to perform, the frustration of criticism, and the desire to prove he still has elite basketball left in him. Sources say he's feeling the weight of the situation more than anyone, because he knows the Warriors desperately need him if Steph is not 100%. Then there's Kuminga, the young rising star who has been waiting for his moment. This could be the turning point of his career, the moment he becomes a true leader, a true scoring threat, and a player who changes games. The question is whether he's ready for that responsibility on a nightly basis. And finally, we have the coaching staff, who are already dealing with public criticism and pressure to deliver results. This MRI leak only increases the heat, because now they have to balance winning games with protecting their superstar. But let's shift back to Steph himself, because no part of this story is more important than his mindset. People close to him say he's determined to keep playing, determined to fight through whatever this injury may be, and determined to write a different ending to this season. Steph has always been a fighter. He never gives up. And even when things look bad, he finds a way to rise again. It has forced players to face the possibility that they may need to carry the team when the unthinkable happens. And it has forced fans to brace themselves for a roller coaster of emotions in the coming weeks. But here's the twist in all of this: this could also be the turning point that brings the Warriors together. Sometimes, A moment like this can wake a team up. It can reignite urgency, passion, and accountability. It can spark young players to rise, motivate veterans to lock in, and remind everyone what's at stake. This story isn't over. Not even close. The Warriors' season is far from finished. But after this MRI leak, nothing will ever be the same again. The Warriors now stand at a crossroads. One path leads to collapse, disappointment, and the end of an era. The other leads to resilience, transformation, and one of the greatest comeback stories of Steph Curry's career. Only time will tell which path they choose. But one thing is certain, every NBA fan, every analyst, and every Warriors supporter will be watching closely, because this shocking update might be the moment that defines everything.